Top 5 Scariest 911 Calls. The soft, steady creak of the rocking chair fills the quiet room as Karen, a young mother, sits gently swaying back and forth, cradling her baby in her arms. Outside, darkness has fallen, casting the house into shadowed silence, with only a few beams of moonlight breaking through the window. Karen watches as shadows dance across the walls, trying to distract herself from the gnawing feeling of unease that settled over her. She's always loved the quiet moments with her baby at night, when the rest of the world seems far away. But tonight, something feels wrong. The air feels thick and heavy, and the usual comforting quiet now feels tense, as if waiting for something to shatter it. Just as she's about to put the baby down, she hears a faint, almost indiscernible crunching sound from the gravel path outside. Karen's heart skips a beat. It's probably just an animal, she tells herself, though her fingers tighten instinctively around her baby. The crunching grows louder, each step deliberate and slow, echoing in the silent night. Karen's stomach tightens. Her mind races through possibilities: a late-night jogger, a neighbor, maybe even a stray cat. But a small voice in the back of her mind whispers, "No one should be out there at this hour." She leans forward slightly, straining to hear, her ears tuned to the faintest sound. Then, as if sensing her attention, the footsteps stop directly outside her front door. Silence falls, thick and suffocating. Karen, whispering to herself, It's probably just the wind." She tries to convince herself, but her voice barely comes out as more than a whisper, and it sounds hollow, unconvincing. Suddenly, a loud bang echoes through the house as something or someone slams against the front door. Karen's heart leaps into her throat, and her baby stirs, letting out a small whimper. Karen, voice shaking. "Oh my God!" Her mind floods with instinctual fear. She doesn't wait to see what happens next. In one swift motion, she rises from the chair, cradling her baby tightly as she hurries up the stairs, her pulse racing with each step. The pounding at the door becomes more insistent, echoing through the house and reverberating in her chest. Her baby's whimpers grow louder, feeding off her fear. Once upstairs, she rushes into her bedroom, frantically locking the door behind her. She presses her ear against it, listening intently as the banging on the front door below continues. With shaking hands, she grabs her phone and dials 911, her voice barely steady as she waits for someone to pick up. 911 operator. Police department. What's your emergency? Karen, voice trembling. There's a man outside my house. He's trying to break in. He's right at my door. I don't know him, please. Send someone. 911 operator. All right, ma'am. Can you tell me exactly what he's doing right now? Karen closes her eyes, trying to steady herself as the loud pounding fills her ears. Her grip tightens on the phone, her hands clammy. Karen, He's pounding on the door. I think he's trying to break it down. Please, send someone now. 911 operator. I understand, ma'am. What's your address? She struggles to keep her voice steady as she rattles off her address, hoping the police will arrive soon. 911 operator. And your name? Karen. 911 operator. All right, Karen. I need you to stay on the line with me. Help is on the way. Just stay calm and let me know if anything changes. Karen glances down at her baby, who's now awake and beginning to cry softly, sensing her mother's fear. She rocks the baby gently, whispering soothing words, though they sound as much for her own comfort as for her child's. Karen, whispering, "It's going to be okay. Help is coming." But even as she speaks, the banging at the front door grows louder, more aggressive. Then, suddenly, the the sound changes a loud, splintering noise as if the wood is beginning to give way. Karen's blood runs cold. Karen, whispering to the operator, He's breaking in. I think he's inside." 911 operator. "Stay calm, Karen. Is there somewhere you can hide or lock yourself in?" She nods, even though the operator can't see her. Moving as quietly as possible, Karen crosses the room to her bedroom door and carefully turns the lock. She presses her ear against the door, listening for any sound that might give her a clue about the intruder's location. The heavy, deliberate footsteps echo up the stairs, each step slow and ominous, drawing closer with each heartbeat. Karen's stomach twists with terror. She backs away from the door, clutching her baby tightly to her chest as she fights the urge to scream. "Karen," barely a whisper. "He's coming up here." 911 operator. "Karen, try to stay calm. I need you to let him know that you're on the phone with the police." Taking a deep breath, Karen musters all the courage she can, raising her voice despite the quiver in her tone. "Karen," shouting through the door, "I have the police on the phone. They're on their way." The footsteps stop abruptly, and for a brief, hopeful moment, silence falls over the house. Karen holds her breath, praying that her words were enough to scare him off. But then, a new sound fills the room, a slow, soft scratching at the door, followed by a low, chilling chuckle. Karen, whimpering, "Oh no!" The doorknob rattles as the intruder tries to open it. She stifles SOB, pressing herself against the wall, trying to keep her breathing quiet. She glances down at her baby, who is now wide-eyed and silent, as if sensing the danger as well. 911 operator. "Karen, keep talking to me. Help is almost there." Her voice is barely more than a whisper as she clings to the phone, desperation lacing her tone. "Karen, please hurry. He's right outside. I can hear him breathing." Then, through the door, she hears the intruder's voice, a low, menacing whisper that makes her blood run cold. "Intruder. Karen, I know you're in there." Her entire body goes rigid, her heart pounding so hard she's sure he can hear it on the other side of the door. 911 operator. "Hold on, Karen. Officers are arriving any moment." With her baby clutched to her chest, she closes her eyes, holding on to the faint hope of rescue as the footsteps retreat down the hall. She waits, every second feeling like an eternity. Scene 2. Ruth's encounter in a small, dimly lit apartment across town. Ruth, an elderly woman, sits alone in her worn armchair, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. She's always felt safe here, her home for over 4 decades. But tonight, something feels off, a prickling unease that seems to hang in the air like a storm about to break. The ticking of the clock on the wall is loud, almost deafening in the silence. The room is bathed in the soft glow of a single lamp, casting long shadows that seem to stretch and shift, making the familiar space feel strange and foreboding. Suddenly, a faint tapping sound breaks the silence. Ruth's heart skips a beat as she glances toward the back door, her gaze catching a shadow just beyond the glass. She squints, hoping it's just her imagination, but the shadow remains a dark, looming figure standing just outside. Ruth, to herself nervously, maybe it's just a raccoon. But as she watches, the figure moves, pressing closer to the door, the outline of a man becoming clear in the dim light. He's too close, too still. Her heart races, and without taking her eyes off the figure, she reaches for her phone, her hands shaking as she dials 911. 911 operator. 911, what's your emergency? Ruth, voice trembling. There's someone outside my house. He's watching me. 911 operator. Can you describe what he's doing, ma'am? Ruth's eyes are fixed on the man outside, who now presses his face against the glass, his eyes searching the room. He doesn't move, doesn't blink, just stares. Ruth, he said he was looking for someone, but he just keeps staring at me. It doesn't feel right. 911 operator, where are you right now? Ruth, voice wavering. I'm in my living room. I live alone. Please, I'm scared. 911 operator, do you know if he's armed? Ruth, I don't know. He's just standing there, staring. It's unnatural. The man finally steps back from the window, vanishing into the darkness. Ruth holds her scene 3. The unknown intruder. It's the dead of night, and a pale sliver of moonlight slices through Mark's bedroom window, casting an eerie glow over the quiet room. The house is silent, save for the soft hum of the refrigerator down the hall. Mark lies in bed, caught in that hazy realm between sleep and waking, when something stirs him fully awake. A sound. A subtle creak, like weight pressing on an old floorboard. Mark's eyes snap open, his heart thudding as he holds his breath, straining his ears. Maybe it was nothing, a product of his imagination. But then he hears it again. A soft, slow shuffle of footsteps moving through his home. His pulse quickens. He listens, trying to make sense of the sounds, but it's hard to tell where they're coming from. They echo faintly, as if whatever is out there is deliberately trying to move quietly. Swallowing his fear, Mark slides out of bed, his bare feet pressing silently into the carpet. He moves cautiously toward the door, his hand hovering over the handle. He hesitates, every fiber in his being screaming for him to stay hidden, to just lock himself away. But curiosity, dangerous and undeniable, drives him to crack the door open, just a sliver, enough to peer into the dim hallway. What he sees sends a chill down his spine. At the end of the hall, there's a figure. The dim light barely illuminates its form, but Mark can make out the hunched, twisted shape of its back. The figure is moving, slowly and deliberately, as if it's searching for something or someone. Mark's heart skips. He can see the back of its head, but something about it is disturbingly unnatural. The skin, it looks torn, almost as if pieces of it have been ripped away, exposing patches of raw, glistening muscle beneath. Mark's breath catches in his throat as he stumbles back into his room, his mind racing with terror. He slams the door shut and locks it, pressing his back against it as if his weight alone could keep the figure out. With shaking hands, he grabs his phone and dials 911, pressing the device to his ear so tightly he can feel his pulse throbbing in his temple. 911 operator. 911 emergency. Do you need assistance? Mark, voice quivering. Yes, there's someone in my house. I don't know who. I don't know what. Please, I'm so scared. 911 operator, calmly. Sir, take a deep breath for me. Can you tell me where you are? Mark, whispering frantically. I'm in my bedroom. I locked the door. I saw him down the hall. I didn't get a good look at him, but something is wrong with him. It's like he's not normal. 911 operator. All right. Stay calm, Mark. Can you describe anything about this person? What did he look like? Mark swallows, forcing himself to recall the details, though every cell in his body screams to forget it. Mark, in a shaky whisper, his skin, it looked like it was peeling off. I could see raw muscle underneath. He wasn't walking right, like his body was all twisted. He can still hear faint footsteps in the hall, coming closer with each passing second. Mark, voice dropping lower. He's coming this way. 911 operator. Stay as quiet as possible, Mark. Officers are on their way. Is there anything in the room you could use to defend yourself? Mark glances around, desperate for anything that might help him. His gaze falls on the flimsy plastic hangers in his closet, and he grimaces. Mark, barely audible, nothing useful, just some plastic hangers. Suddenly, the footsteps stop. The silence is deafening, pressing against him as he clutches the phone. And then he hears the faint sound of the doorknob, jiggling, as if someone is testing it. A surge of adrenaline floods his veins, and he holds his breath, his entire body rigid. Then, a voice low, twisted, almost amused, filters through the door. Intruder. Softly. I can hear you, Mark. The sound of his own name coming from that voice chills him to the core. He bites his lip, trying to keep himself from making a sound, his hand covering his mouth as his breaths come in shallow, trembling gasps. Mark, whispering, terrified. Please. He's right outside. He knows my name. 911 operator. Just hold on, Mark. The police are minutes away. Stay with me. A low, mocking chuckle seeps through the wood, sending a ripple of cold dread down Mark's spine. Intruder. Hi, Mark. I'm Casper. The voice is twisted, distorted, as if it's barely human. Mark's heart races as he fights the urge to scream. Tears blur his vision, and his body shakes as he presses himself back against the wall, feeling utterly trapped. His mind races with panic, every passing second dragging on endlessly. His only hope is the promise of help on the other end of the line. The line goes silent as the operator tries to keep him calm. Scene 4. The tragedy of Nikki in another part of town. The day has been a long and agonizing one for a young teenager named Nikki. He has been searching the house for his brother, who has been oddly quiet all day. His brother hadn't come out for breakfast, hadn't replied to texts, and now, with the evening shadows lengthening, a feeling of unease settles over Nikki. Finally, gathering his courage, he approaches his brother's closed bedroom door. He hesitates, his hand hovering just above the doorknob. Something feels wrong, he can't explain it, but there's a heaviness in the air, a weight pressing down on him. He pushes the door open, and his world shatters. There, slumped in the chair by the bed, is his brother's lifeless body. His skin is ashen, his eyes half closed, staring blankly at nothing. A gun lies at his side, its metallic surface glinting faintly in the dim light. Nikki's breath catches, his chest tight, as his mind struggles to process the scene before him. He stumbles back, bile rising in his throat as he tries to look away. But his gaze is locked onto his brother, onto the stillness that has replaced the lively presence he once knew. With trembling hands, he fumbles for his phone, dialing 911. His fingers slip on the screen as he struggles to breathe, his body racked with uncontrollable sobs. 911 operator. 911 emergency. What's your emergency? Nikki, voice breaking. It's my brother. He's dead. 911 operator. Take a deep breath, Nikki. Can you tell me what happened? Nikki, barely able to speak through his sobs, he shot himself. The words feel foreign, hollow, as they leave his lips. He can't reconcile them with the reality in front of him. It feels like a nightmare one he'll wake up from any moment. But he doesn't wake up. The room remains quiet, oppressive. 911, operator. Are you alone right now? Nikki, voice trembling. No, my sister's here. But we don't know what to do. 911 operator. You're doing just fine, Nikki. Help is on the way. Take a deep breath, okay? Nikki nods, his vision blurred by tears. clutching the phone as if it were his only lifeline. His chest tightens as he glances back at his brother, a wave of guilt crashing over him. How had he not known? How had he not noticed? 911 operator. Did you just find him, Nikki? Nikki, whispering, lost in disbelief. Yes. He's been here all day. I thought he was just sleeping. I didn't know. I thought he was just asleep. His voice trails off as he sinks to the floor, the weight of his grief pulling him down. He clutches his knees, his sobs breaking the heavy silence, filling the room with his pain. 911 operator. You're very brave, Nikki. Help will be there soon. But the words do little to ease the ache in his heart. He feels as if he's drowning, lost in a sea of regret and sorrow, each moment stretching endlessly as he waits, helpless, beside the brother he couldn't save. The screen fades to black, Nikki's soft, heartbroken sobs echoing in the darkness, a haunting reminder of the tragedy that has shattered his world.